This episode of the Polyhedron Collider Cast is sponsored by Kienda. Go to www.kienda.co.uk/Polyhedron Collider for a discount off your first order. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Polyhedron Collider Cast, episode 169. I'm Steve Tudor.
I'm Andy Lewis.
I'm Sid Gill.
And I'm Rory Summers.
Yes, I did forget my name.
Oh, Jesus.
Wow. Off to a cracking start there, Mr. Gill.
Yes. Well, I've got no excuse.
No, you have got no excuse, mate.
No,
there's nothing.
It's your name. You've had it for a long time.
I'm just trying to think of something, but no. I'm just going to have to own that. I just genuinely forgot.
Genuinely forgot what to say during the introduction.
Which it's also written down on the show notes.
Yeah.
Just because you keep forgetting.
Yeah, let's
In
face
the
it,
great
you do have
words.
previous as well, don't you?
In the great words of Henry Jones, the great philosopher himself, he wrote it down so he didn't have to remember it.
Yeah, but you clearly can't read either.
Look, it's no excuse. Like I said, I'm just trying to act intelligent to try and fob you off on my little faux pas there.
I mean, it was very philosophical, Sid.
Yeah.
Much more, very philosophical for a sober Sid, I must admit.
I thought it was pretty good.
Oh, Tim, well, we're off to a very slow, bad start here, aren't we? Yeah.
Right.
If we've got any listeners that have carried on over from our Expo coverage, they're going to be sorely disappointed at this point in time, aren't they?
No, they
Very.
won't, because with less ramshackle nonsense, we can just crack on and start talking about more board games.
Well, that is a valid point. So do you want to just kick things straight in? Going in hot.
Let's go in hot. What should we talk about? In what order? I wish we discussed this before we started recording.
Well, I mean, in the time-honoured Polyhedron Collider tradition of a very tenuous segue, the desert's hot.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And on our list of games is Sankoré, the pride of Mansa Musa, which I'm hoping I'm pronouncing correctly, but probably not, which is set in a desert.
It is. It's set in...
It's even got camels.
Yeah, in 14th century Timbuktu. And this is Sankoré from Osprey Games. And this is designed by my man, Fabio Lopiano, and Mandela Fernandez Grandon, who I was very surprised with a name like that, has a really thick Glaswegian accent.
Wow, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's lovely.
I'd imagine him to be a kind of a prize-winning sword fighter with that name.
No,
He's from Glasgow.
Yeah.
So to be fair, the sword with an iron brew bottle broken in half.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So yeah, this is a game that we picked up from our show sponsor, Kienda. So if you do like the sound of this, as I'm about to let you know about it, you can go over to their website and check it out. And if it's your first purchase, you can get a little discount by using the /Polyhedron Collider at the checkout. But more about the game. So this is, it's set in, like I said, 14th century Timbuktu, and your challenge with spreading knowledge and information across all of West Africa by contributing books to the Great Library of the University of Sankoré. So books are a really, really key resource in this, and they're spread out through all of this land, and you'll collect them, and you'll spend them, and you'll collect some gold, and you'll spend that, and you'll collect some salt, and you'll spend that as well. But ultimately, this game works in a kind of worker placement system, and what you'll do, you'll send your workers, or students in this case, through your university, which acts as like a bit of a pyramid, a tech tree. So you've got basic lessons, then advanced lessons, and they get narrower and narrower and narrower. And you'll send them through these, and you'll be studying things like astronomy and theology and mathematics and law. And after each lesson, your worker will progress, get a little bit smarter, and then they'll get access to the higher levels. And the higher levels are, the better they are. And each lesson allows you to interact with one of the 4 sections of the board, because at the core, this game is an area control game. 19 tiny little area control games, in fact, as I did a count. And that's the basic version, is 19 area control games.
What do you mean basic version? You mean there's an advanced version?
There is an advanced version. So you've got a little library board, which is essentially just 3 shelves where you'll place your books, which is the really clever thing. But in the advanced game, you flip that over, so there are 6 shelves, with 3 of them being a bit shorter. So, yeah, so a really clever part of this game is throughout the game, you're collecting prestige points or stars for each of the 4 disciplines. But they're all essentially worth nothing until the end of the game, because at the end of the game, you actually work out from this area control of the library which type of book has the majority on each row in the library shelf. So if theology has the most on the top shelf, it's every theology prestige point then is worth 2 points. But if it doesn't come first or second on either of the other 2 rows, it's only ever going to be worth 2 points. But it could, if you're really clever and savvy with how you put your books out, it could win every single row, and therefore every theology prestige point you have is then worth 6 points at the end of the game. So it makes it this really clever game of trying to collect these, and you kind of want a spread, but you also kind of need to really keep an eye on this library shelf and manipulate it by slamming books there. And you can do that by taking various actions, graduating students, setting up new classes, building walls. But the game's got this fantastic little economy. I think Sid pointed it out to me, actually, that little wheel. So when you go to the astronomy lesson, do a blue astronomy lesson, and you're trekking through the desert and going to other cities and other towns. And when you go there, you have to pay gold, and they'll give you salt. But then you use the salt by doing a theology lesson. You give your salt to build mosques, obviously, and they will give you books. And then you use your books and all the learnings you get from those books to help you build walls in the mathematics section, which will give you gold, which you could then go back to the astronomy section and spend the gold to get more salt to then spend in the and it's a lovely little circle.
And then, of course, you've got the 4th section, which is law, and because law is generally just a leech on society in general, they require all 3 resources.
All 3 resources, and they give you all these little boosters. But each of these quadrants is split into 4 again as well. So at certain points throughout the game, they will trigger scoring, and you need to make sure that you have the majority in each area so that you score and win books, because ultimately the whole game is about collecting these books, spending these books to do actions, and then manipulating that library in the end. That's a very top level overview of the game, because I think as I set it up on the table for Steve on Sunday night, he took one look at this and went, "There's a fucking lot going on here."
Well, I tried to look for a video, because I generally try to, if we know we're going to play a game, and I know it's not mine, I will look for a learning video, even if it's just something I can just watch during my lunch break, basically. And the shortest video on YouTube I could find for this game was 1.5 hours long, because there's no actual teaching videos. Everything basically plays the game and teaches you, which I always thought was worrying right from the start, that meant that basically there's no way to just teach you the rules. You have to be shown them and led through them.
I don't necessarily think that's true. I think, because I've taught all of you, and I think each teach took about half an hour, and I think I did a fairly good job every time I did it. I even got more rules correct every time I did it as well.
I was going to say, because you got some of the rules wrong in our game, but I guess I was first.
Yes.
You were first.
Yes, there you go.
You were the guinea pig.
I had the benefit of your playthrough, and then a couple of moments of me and Rory Googling through the PDF to find out some random word, because we couldn't work out why something did something else. Overflow. Bloody overflow.
It makes a big difference, Sid, getting that all right.
It does. It's just same that's just tucked away in the midst of blocks of text. It's one really important line.
While we're on the rule book, we don't often talk about rule books, really. This is a really good rule book for learning the rules. It does a great job of taking you through it. It gives you historical notes about Sankoré and why these mechanisms are all there. However, it is a terrible rule book for going back to find something that you can't quite remember.
Yes, we had that problem because we played it last night. Certain actions can only be taken if you've got 2 students in the lesson.
The supported class, yeah.
Yeah, supported class calls it. But basically only one of the students goes through the class, but 2 have to be basically sitting in the lecture theatre. So it's basically like 1 fails and 1 passes. But twice we had questions about the order in which things happened because we wondered if in case it had an effect on something. And then I looked for the rule book while Rory and Adam were taking a turn. Then Rory looked for the rule book. And then it came back to me and we had to go, look, we've got to stop now. We've actually got to find this rule. And it was like one tiny little paragraph hidden away with no diagram, which I thought was really weird considering like every single time you get to take this type of action had its own system, its own logo, sorry. And like just that picture in the rule book would have made you scan it and go, oh, there it is. That's that rule.
Yep, that's why we downloaded the PDF halfway through our game and then used Find.
You just find to find what do you do with the overflow, because I couldn't find it for love nor money.
Find it.
Yeah.
Found it in the end.
Yeah. But overall...
It's be relatively simple once you can use a text find, isn't it?
Yeah.
But overall, I really enjoy this game. I was really surprised looking at the BGG entry that this is described as a midweight Euro.
What?
No.
Yeah, it's a midweight Euros in the description, but its average BGG weight is 4.17.
That's more like it,
Yeah. I think that, because this is a pretty heavy game. I remember we were playing it last night, and I want to play it with all of you. Your first few turns are really quick and really easy. And Steve turned to me and went, well, this is going to be over really quickly. This is really, there's not much to do here. And then half an hour later, Steve stood over the board just staring at it like it had said something really mean about his mother.
Well, as we all know, my brains are in my arse, so I need to give them like oxygen to allow the air to flow around. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I've only played this once. Obviously, Rory has like got the most experience with it. He's played several times. Well, obviously, played at least 3 times. He played with all of us
a bit more than that, but yeah.
Yeah. I was really impressed by this, but I've got to admit, at first, I was just like, what? Hey? And then I got grumpy halfway through, because it's every Euro game I have to get grumpy with at some point. So it's usually a good sign of a good Euro game when I get grumpy, because it means part of my brain hasn't connected that synapse yet. And then it'll connect, and then it'll be good. And I was like, I can't work out how I do this action. I can't get the workers I need to do this without giving everything to Adam. And it wasn't, because it was basically, Adam was basically building the mosques, which is like spending salt to build mosques and you get books. And I didn't have any students that would give me the benefits for that. And I realised that if I did that, it would make it easier for him to do that action. Because it's a really cool idea to get your students, which are effectively your workers, you take them from 4 tracks, which each represent the 4 actions. But the more students you take, the easier that action comes for everyone.
Yeah. It's that really clever. They call it knowledge, don't they? So the more students you take from the law pool, and they could be students of all 4 disciplines, but that increases everybody's knowledge. And then as you contribute something to that section by building, I think for law it's a crown, or represents something, your personal knowledge increases as well. So you add those 2 scores together, and that dictates how high up these tracks you go. But you're right, it's a fantastic catch-up mechanic, isn't it? And it doesn't feel heavy-handed either. It kind of makes sense as well. So when you've depleted all the, loads of astronomy students, in theory, we all have quite a good understanding of what astronomy is, which buoys us all up. Was it a rising tide type of thing?
I do realise a little bit too late that I twigged what the game's actually about.
It's about books.
It's all about the books and stars. Everything else is just noise to get those 2 things. You don't get any victory points for exploring the desert. You don't get any victory points for, becoming the best lawyer in Timbuktu. It's all about the books, and the books is an area control game. And you said it's all area control, because that's how what happens is once these tracks go down, things get fired off, and you get the books and you get these stars based on how you control these different areas. But the end of the game is just stars versus those bookshelves.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise until later on in the game that those books are not equal.
No.
Because I'd hedged my bets on orange, which is law books. And I realised there was less law books in the game than certain other books. And I realised that too late.
Well, they're random.
Yeah, no, it's all random. So the beginning of the game, you seed the every area has one of each book minimum. But then the theology section, the books are seeded from a bag, And as it just so happened, in our game, there weren't many orange books at all that came out. Right. So they were all in the supply, so you could access them, but you couldn't get them through doing a theology action. Or they weren't as common in the theology action.
Yeah, they weren't as common on the board, basically. So, they were, as you said, they were in the supplies. There were certain actions you could do to get them off the supply, but there wasn't as many on the board. And I realised this to my peril too late. Because I banked on orange, and orange wasn't coming out enough for me to get the points.
Well, do you know what I did, Steve?
Go on, then.
I snatched defeat from the jaws of victory because I didn't fully appreciate the win condition.
It's a really clever win condition.
It's a really clever win condition. You know how you have to get the most books, the area control bit on the bookshelf, right? Mm. There was one bookshelf which was hotly contested by Rory and I. And he was backing orange, I was backing blue. 3 books of each, but the last book gone down was orange. So I went, I'm going to tip the tide. I'm going to tip the tide and I'm going to put another blue book. Last action of the game.
Yeah.
On that row. Had I thought for a minute, I should have given him that row and stolen the row below. And had I done so, I would have robbed them of a shitload of points and given them to myself. I didn't realise this until he's tallied up the scores.
No, that's it. I didn't realise it either. I think it's one of the things Steve said last night about maybe for your first game of this, there might be some jiggery pokery with how you put the books on the bookshelf just so it's easy to read.
No. Yeah, I messed it up. It was on me. And we should all accept our mistakes. It makes us a better person. And do you know what? As frustrating as it was, I didn't take away a thing from this game. I still really enjoyed playing it through. Even though I didn't win on the day. But in my head, I did. Because I didn't make my mistake. But I know I really enjoyed it. Really, really enjoyed this.
So how many players have you all played? How many people were playing in each of the games you guys played?
Two for me.
You played 2. So we played it 3-player last night, and now I want to play it 4-player.
Oh.
Because I think this game shines at the higher player count, just based on what we saw at 3. Because there's so much more area control to contest, so there's much more going on.
It was brutal at 3. Having played it, because I've played it a few times at 2 players, and I think like at 2 players, I have 50% of control over the library. I have 50% control over the board. But that going from 50 to 30 odd percent felt so difficult. How things just rocketed, like doing a theology action. It's just like you guys had just filled it all up. I needed to get in there sooner. And I think at 4 players, that's going to be more contested because I've only got 25% control then.
Yeah. I mean, like for instance, you kicked off, I said this thing happens when you take the students off the board and these little area control games ping off. You'd instigated the area control game on exploring the desert before me and Adam had even left Timbuktu. We hadn't even put the saddlebags on the camels, and you'd already got halfway down this track. Yeah. And that was the point when I thought, this game's going to skyrocket. But interestingly, and this is what I found fascinating, it seemed like the game skyrocketed at the beginning because we suddenly got to these area control scorings, which were vitally important, and we weren't ready. Then the middle section seemed to turn into proper Eurogame stodge. And I don't say that a bad thing, but I mean like every action was like, I need to think about this, and it slowed down. And then all of a sudden, you just go, we're halfway through the game. Then the next action got taken, and Rory goes, we're now 5/8 of the way through the game. And another action, we're now 3/4 of the way through the game. Are you saying we just went from halfway through the game to 3/4 of the way through the game in 2 actions? He went, yes. And then all of a sudden, boom, it was end of the game before we knew it.
It got to a point where it was like, Steve, if Steve doesn't end it now, I know I'm going to get one more action because there'll be no way I'm going to make it for a full circuit, and I'm still. So it's like I have to eke out as many points now as possible.
It's a bit like Galactic Cruise, then. That's the same. Once you get to that third section, it's just gone. If you haven't launched your ship, you're dead.
Yeah, if it does feel like that, because you suddenly look at the bookshelves and look at your stars and go, well, I'm going to get some stars at the end because there's a bit of cleanup where you get some extra stars. But there was a point where it's like, I'm so screwed. Unless I can get some more stars, and then there was such careful timing about placing that last book, because me and Adam were in contesting one of the rows, and it was basically we were even. So whoever placed the last book either broke the tie or set up a new majority. And so the two of us were very carefully going back and forth. And then I was like, oh, God, do I end the game now? Like, no, if I end the game now, Adam's got that majority and he's got loads of them stars. So I need to wait another turn and plot my book on at the very last moment and hope I can end the game with my last book, which I did. Didn't work. He still beat me by 10 points. But
It's because you put it on the wrong shelf like I did.
No, I put it on the right shelf. I just Adam had done a bit of a blind in the game. He'd actually, even though we were contesting this really hard, he did a bit of a blinder. Rory did very badly.
My worst game yet. I did absolutely. I give that. I chalk that up to having to teach two people and keep an eye on them that they were doing everything right. Just go, no, Stephen, you can't teach a lesson twice. That came up a few times.
That many points. You start the rules teach by saying you can't take the same action twice, and you're going to go and try and teach a lesson twice. And I'm going to tell you, no, you can't do that. So let me say that again. You can't teach two lessons in one turn.
I'm sure it was like Steve's second turn. It was like, and now I'm going to teach this lesson. No, Steve. 5 minutes ago. Come on.
But that was the other fascinating one, actually, because I was getting towards the end of the game. I was running out of actions to take because I just wanted to teach lessons. I didn't want to do anything else. I'm like, I'm going to choose another action just for the sake of it right now.
Yeah. No, fabulous game. It looks beautiful as well. Ian O'Toole artwork again, because obviously this is essentially the sequel to Merv, which we love. I think it was a great game, and this is the next game comes out later this year, which is Ayara, which is again as another Fabio Mandela game. So it's can't wait for that either.
Very quick question for you, Andy. How was your colour blindness with this? Because it's very Ian O'Toole design. There's lots of nice pastel-y colours, but I wondered whether you'd struggled with the blues and the purples.
No, because there was a sky blue and a deep purple, so it was okay. They were quite distinguishable. I found it quite gaudy, though, to start with, because it's quite a lot of primary and bright colours, which means it's quite confusing to look at until you get your head around it.
My criticism in that regard is the resources you need to do an action are a very small icon.
Yes.
On a very big board, and I don't know why the icons for the cost of an action was so small.
I had that exact criticism as well, because it took me a while to get used to how much does that. Oh, it's salt. Oh, is it? Oh, right, yeah. And of course, you're having a look. It's quite a big board. Seeing across the other sides of it, you really can't see those cost icons at all. And to see them wrapped in red, I think they were wrapped in red. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, they were in red.
I couldn't see the red very clearly at all because of my dog eyes. So that needs to be made bigger and brighter. So yeah, it was difficult to see all of that until I got used to it. And even then I missed it every now and again.
But I think that's my only criticism. My only criticism is the cost of actions should be bigger.
Yes, because it's quite important.
It is quite important, but I still really enjoyed the game.
Yeah.
And I still want to play it again.
There's not a lot wrong with this one.
No.
There's things that could make it better and make it feel like more easy to play, like you said, with a bigger iconology.
I think a player aid would help. Oh, dual layer board.
Dual layer board. There's too many little pieces moving around on my little board, constantly fidgeting with them. They need little slots. I mean, but that's mouse shit, really.
Yeah.
There's not a lot wrong.
An absolutely cracking game. This is absolutely cracking. I mean, I love Fabio's designs. Head of the Fabio Lopiano Society. You're not surprised. But this is a belting game. I thoroughly recommend it. It's a heavy game, and you'll sink 2-3 hours into this. I think even at 2, 3, or 4 players, I think it scales really, really well. But the time doesn't drop off because there's so much thinking time required. Every thought. I think I said to all of you when we played it, you'll take your turn, and it will come back to you, and you'll still be thinking about your turn. The board state doesn't change dramatically between your turns, but there's so much to think about. There's so much to try and so much headspace is required to get that efficiency.
So that was Sankoré, the pride of Mansa Musa from Osprey Games. Should we talk about another very heavy and very complicated game?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm going to open this by saying I think this has the direct opposite in a way, and I don't think number of players matters in this game. So I'm going to open with that gambit and talk about Civolution from Pegasus Spiel. And designed by?
Stefan Feld. The man, Stefan Feld. Yeah.
The man.
The man. I'm not president of that society. Someone got there before me.
I don't want to explain every rule for this game because this
Why
is a
not,
very
Stephen?
because otherwise we will be here for the next 3 hours. Everyone will have fallen asleep. I mean, we can actually put on a separate episode as a sleep aid if you want. Because there's an awful lot going on in this game.
The Polyhedron Collider sleep aid.
That is like the worst ASMR I think I can imagine. Just Welsh Steve talking at me from a rule book. Oh my God.
I want this to be a thing.
I don't think there's an opportunity. I'm like, okay.
I want this to be a thing. Just Steve reading the Civolution rulebook to help people.
Let's just say, if you were Charlotte Church, for example, reading the book, maybe there's some mileage in it. Not from where you're from, mate. Still.
Not from Wrexham, no. Civolution is a game in which you are, theme-wise, playing a video game, I believe, in which you are controlling a race of creatures in a Civ-type game. So civilization type game, and you are at the same time you are supposed to be gods. I've got to admit, I think the theme's a bit all over the place, but you actually have like a console, and that's kind of like structure of the game. But what you're doing is you will have a race, you'll have a area of a map which you're exploring for resources. You're going to get those resources to upgrade your civilization, and the extra thing you're going to do is you're going to actually evolve your civilization. Your creatures are going to evolve and get better stats effectively, and it is actually stats which are tagged, but you can also have evolutionary upgrades like wings, gills, that kind of thing. How the game actually works, though, it's a dice placement game.
It's really easy, Steve. Really.
It's really easy. It's a dice placement game in which you're going to you get a set number of dice, which can change as the game as goes through, and you have to assign 2 dice to an action, which means there is basically an action for every single combination of dice.
Mm-hmm.
And there is an action which you can take if you don't like what you've got. You can basically bin off some dice and take an action, which is generally get you a little Brucey bonus in order to do things. Now, what this is interesting is if anyone's played Feast for Odin, which is another Stefan Feld game, that is a game which is a nightmare when you first start, because I think that's got some stupid like 36 actions.
That's Uwe Rosenberg.
It's Uwe Rosenberg. Sorry, it's Uwe Rosenberg. You're right. So that's a game which feels similar because that's got something like 36 different worker placement spots, which all do slightly different actions. So the first time you play that game, you're like, what? And this is the same. But it's also got the similar thing in that you may play a game of Civolution and you will not take half the actions in that game.
Yeah.
Because there's so much you can do with those actions that's there's not necessarily you can do them. The other issue is because you need a particular dice combination to take an action, there's a good chance that if you want to take it, you can't, because luck has thrown the dice at you and made it so you can't take that action this round. You've also got resources, and resources in this game are interesting because I do believe there's something ridiculous like 24 different resources if you include all the things you can harvest and mine. Also, you've got food and you've got gold, and then you've got 2 like bonus resources. Like one allows you to replace the dice, and one allows you to change the dice.
I make it 23 top of my head.
Is it 23 different resources?
23 different resources. That's focus, insight, food, money, and then 3 resources for each of the 6 different terrain types. Yeah. 23.
And about 18 of them you won't see during your playthrough.
Yeah, exactly. 18 of them you won't see. Food, you need. Money, I didn't bother with most of the games I played. The other part of the game, apart from exploring the map, which you have to explore the map and make settlements in order to mine minerals and food and wood and all that kind of stuff. The other part of the game is you've got this console which you're installing things in, which is basically you have a card, you'll have requirements for the card, and you stick it in this console. But the requirements go up depending on where it goes, and you have to put things in rows and columns have to match, which means that if you want to put one purple card in, it costs this much. The second purple card will cost what it costs on the second, and it has to go above another purple card.
It's a tableau builder. What are you talking about?
It's a bit of a tableau builder.
It's a dice placement, tableau building, soft 4X. Move on. Right there.
Yeah.
That makes it sound like some kind of ropey porn film. Soft 4X.
It's got one extra X than normal, so it's betterer.
Oh, yeah.
I really like this game, but I feel as if I have barely scratched the surface of it. Because there is so much going on in this game. I look at my score and think, I think I've done well compared to everyone else I'm playing with. But I know that there's more scope because there are extra rows I can install these cards, and I know there's another 3 rows, so I'm doing terrible compared to what this game thinks I should be able to do. I also think, and I said this at the beginning, this is a game in which the only way in which multiple players drastically affect the game is how much of the board gets explored. But that's not necessarily true, because even in a high player count game, if you found the resources you need, you don't need to explore. So why would you?
Yeah. You just explore a little bit, yeah. But then in a 2-player game, I could just go gangbusters and try and just migrate everywhere and flip stuff over left, right, and centre. So yeah, you could have all that exploration very easily in a 2-player game, and none in a 4-player game. Yeah.
Am I right in thinking everyone's played this one as well?
No, I haven't played this one.
You haven't played this one, Sid. No. This is a proper brain melter. This I think feels heavier than Sankoré just because you are limited by what you can do. As I said, there's a vast array of actions you can take, but most of the time you're going to be limited by the dice you've rolled, so your game is about optimising. Because you can basically spend actions getting the things to allow you to manipulate the dice, do the actions you want, or you can take actions that do things maybe you don't want to do but might give you an advantage anyway.
So that's what you've just described there is what attracted me. So we had a choice, Rory and I. We had a 3-hour window, and we picked Sankoré or Civolution. And Rory explained it kind of like what you said, is you're not always going to know what your next action is because it depends on what dice land. And that appealed to me quite a lot because it meant I was constantly evolving and constantly trying to deal and problem solve what was in front of me.
Yeah.
But then he said something else. And then he said, but it's a lot of faff.
There's a
spell game? Faff? Surely not.
And I went, well, yeah, on that basis, let's play Sankoré. So I'm intrigued to know more about this from what you guys have played it.
I've played it twice. Again, and there are people that should say that we shouldn't be reviewing a game after playing it twice. I know Rory's played it a lot more.
I've played it several times now. At 2, 3, and 4 players. I
think you're right. It is faffy, and I don't feel as if I know the game enough to say whether it's good or bad. I enjoyed what I've played, but this game is so deep that I feel as if I've just learnt how to play it. And then what didn't help is the first game we played was quite literally a tutorial game. So the game says, right, for your first game, dish out these cards. And when I say it was a tutorial game, if you followed what the card said to do, you'd score lots of points.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I tried to play the game, poke the game, went, I'll do this. And I got halfway through and went, no, let's do what the cards told me to do. And I absolutely trounced everyone. It felt like a hollow victory because I'd only done what the cards in my hand had told me to do.
Yeah.
Rather than learn the game. So although I'd learnt the rules, I don't feel as if I'd learnt the gameplay or any of the strategy or anything. Whereas the second game felt much more interesting because now I was like learning my own. What do I do? And poking at the game a lot more and trying to build like an engine.
That second game with you was a lot more interesting because we did a random map because the map is all modular. So we did a random map. And then we did a draft of all of the cards because you start with one of each of the 6 cards. We did a draft of those, draft of starting resources and stuff. It was and missions as well. We drafted all of that, and the game became about trying to find those synergies as early as possible, and then manipulating and doubling down on those. Which is what you just kind of get gifted that in the introductory game, don't you?
Yeah. My only problem was that I got all the cards to make a synergy, and I didn't play the last card of that synergy until the very last round of the game, by which point it was too late.
You played it upside down, didn't you, I think? If you'd have played that card first, it would have benefited you.
Yeah. Now, I quite like this. I know Rory quite liked this.
I love this game.
I have a funny feeling Andy's going to have a dissenting opinion.
You are kind of, right and also wrong.
Okay.
I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. I think there's too much in it. There's too much game in this game. I think you could probably make about 3 games out of what he's put in this single game. For all the reasons that you've already said, you can't get to do all of the things in one bit. You can't get, no matter how well you play the game, you will never see 3/4 of it in a single playthrough, which I think is a bit dumb. I mean, even every other heavy Euro, you might not be able to get 100% of the game, but you'll see a lot of it if you play well, and I think that's a good thing. I think Civolution, it just felt like work. I didn't hate it, and I thought some of it was quite clever. I liked the kind of the stacking the cards bit and the tableau bit. That was very clever, and I enjoyed it. I found it quite frustrating, but I liked it. I found the dice, being limited by your dice in worker choices is always annoying. But it costs you an action. It's inefficient. You're inefficient by dumb luck, which I find really annoying. So you're already on the back foot by dumb luck, which is crap.
Yeah, I think there's one round where I actually rolled like 4 2s.
Exactly. And it costs you 2 actions to do anything about it, by which time that's half your action's gone, so you're kind of useless. That irritated me quite a lot. You two have said you want to play it again. I don't. No. I have no burning desire to play this again. I didn't hate it. I genuinely didn't hate it. I know it's Stefan Feld, and I have a bit of a bet for hating Stefan Feld games, with the possible exception of Burgundy, which is a very good game. But I did not like this, really. I'm not burning to get on with it again. I didn't think it's a very good game, frankly. I thought it's too complicated. It just felt like there's too much in it for what it is. And the theme was bollocks.
Yeah, the theme is a bit weak, and you are right. It's odd that with the amount of game there is, that you'll see so little of it. Like each deck of cards. So each deck you've got like one is culture, one is buildings, and so on and so forth. They're all color coded. And they're a decent sized deck. There's 30, maybe 50 cards in each deck, and you'll only see maybe 10 of those.
Yeah. That's the
in
thing.
the entire game, and that's if you take the upgraded skill, which allows you to then go and take the cards. But
which I had. Still couldn't see all the bloody cards.
Because you get 1 card face up every round, and there's only 4 rounds of the game, so you'll only see those 4 unless you go fishing for them. And it's you're potentially only seeing 10% of that deck every game, which means that your games are vastly different as well, which is what I love. Every time I've played this, the game has been very, very different. The events are different. The way the weather changes is different. The board setup is different. The players are different. The strategies are different. The cards that become available are different. The evolutions are different. Everything is so different. I think Steve used the word that the game is deep, and I was going to jump in and say I think it's vast. It's huge. There's actions. I think there's still maybe 1, maybe 2 actions in the game that I've actually never taken.
I think this is kind of my point. You're making my point for me, really.
But no, I think for me,
it's too big.
For me, that's a good thing, though. It means there's still more of this game for me to explore. There's still experiences for me to have.
There is, but you'll never connect them properly, and I think that's my issue with it. Whilst there's a lot of things that you could see in the game, you could never really plan to see them. They'll just come out.
And I think, for me,
I don't
that's the
think that's
beauty
a
of
good
it.
thing. I don't think that's a good thing at all. I think getting to see more of a game because you get better at it is a good thing. Getting to see more of the game because you focus on one thing and those cards happen to come out, that's just random chance, and I think that's a very different thing. I'll give you an alternative. I've got Endless Winter, Paleo Americans. You guys haven't played it, don't worry about it. I got it ages ago from Kickstarter, and I played that, and it's a game where you basically got a load of stuff on your board, and you've got to get the stuff off your board onto the main board. It's one of those kind of games. And the first time I played that, I emptied my board. So that was the opposite problem. It was too easy.
Yeah.
Where do I go from there? I kind of like this happy medium. I think Civolution's got too much. You'll never see all of that game, no matter how well you play it. There's only one bit you might see it slightly more of, and you're always going to get hit by the dice. Whereas Paleo Americans, there's not enough going on. So I prefer something in the middle. It's personal choice, but again, I just think there's too much in it. I think the stuff with just the tableau, that could be a game in itself. The stuff with all the exploration, that can be a different game. It's literally at least two games in one box, and I just think there's too much of it. And that means I just don't want to play it again. It's just too much like work. It's not appealing.
I wonder whether this doesn't suit our current way of playing games. Now, part of the way we play games is, of course, the podcast. We describe the podcast as the beast that needs feeding. It constantly needs this fodder of new games coming in. So I wonder whether we're unusual in which we play games like 3-4 times usually, and then it gets disappeared. How much chance there's actually a question we might come to later about how much we revisit games. I think the kind of group which has a limited number of games in their collection and plays games 5, 10, 15, 20 times, who gets into Civolution, is going to get a lot out of it because they're going to see more of the game. Mm-hmm. But I think, I can see where you're coming from, Andy. If you're only going to play this 2 or 3 games, you're going to see a fraction of it, and you're not going to get that value out of it, that return. And I don't just mean fiscal value. I mean like actual enjoyment value. Sure.
But I'm kind of with Andy here. If you need to sit down, it's not a short game. It's a 3-4 hour beast, right?
It's a big game, yeah.
Right?
It is a big game, yeah.
I don't know enough people to sit down with me multiple times to play the same game for 3 or 4 hours. I can't. Well,
I'm not seeing enough of it. Now, there's nothing wrong with sitting down 3 hours. That's okay.
No,
but not
3
seeing
hours
enough of that game is.
But playing the same game again and again and again with either the same 3 or 4 people or different 3 or 4 people. I don't think there's enough people in the world.
As I said, Sid, there are people who do this, and I think those kind of people who like a heavy euro and play it loads, people who do this 10 by 10 challenge and put all these euros on it, they're going to get something out of this because they're going to see, every time they play, they're going to see something different. Something different which they have to adapt to, something different that they have to try and beat the players and play the game. We are going to struggle with it because 2, 3, 4 games, we're kind of going to go like, I haven't seen enough of this, and I'm going to have to play it again to see more of it. Which I said, if I had my way, we wouldn't be talking about this now. We'd be talking about it in 6 months' time when I've played it 3 or 4 more times.
No, I don't believe you. I don't believe you because this has got me unnecessarily riled up. This is like having a shelf full of fine malt whiskies and drinking Bells every go.
He's not wrong.
Just going back to the same flavour profile again and again, and then pretending like it's different.
There's nothing inherently wrong with that. I'm actually I quite like it when 4 people can sit down and play a game and everyone knows the rules and you just get on with it. That's really, it doesn't happen very often, as for the reasons Steve's just said, but it's quite pleasing when it does. Like I played Galactic Cruise with my board game group last week. All 4 of us knew the rules and we just got through the game in just over 2 hours. It was wonderful, but it doesn't happen very often. I take the point, but. I think for this, even if you played this 20 times, even in a single playthrough, you're only going to see 10% of it. And that's the bit that bothers me.
No, I don't think you would. I think Sid's analogy there of, a shelf full of whiskey is a bit backwards, right? I think this is a very fine game. It is vast, it is rich. There's a lot going on. And I think you've got to invest the time in playing this to explore it, to savour that moment of going, I'm going to experience all of this wonderfulness now. And I know I'm not going to do it every time. I'm not going to do it every Friday night. But when I do, it's going to be good. It's going to be different as well.
The thing is, if you sat me down and said, right, Andy, we've got 3, maybe 4 hours, half a day, I don't really mind. I'm quite happy to play a long game. Would you rather play Civolution? I'm going to get in trouble from you for mentioning Lacerda, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because they are quite long games. Or we play, I don't know, Eclipse, or we play another Tuskegee game, or something like that. You know, another 4 or 5 hour game. I would rather play, or even Sankoré, we've just mentioned now. That's a long game. I would rather play any of them than this.
Well, I think we should leave it at that. And the Sid's analogy, Civolution is a complex whiskey, or it's a bottle of bells.
Viewers, help us out.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. And if you have played this game and like to tell us what you think, please let us know on the Discord channel.
Yeah. Do write in.
Do write in, yeah.
write in.
Answer on the postcard. Right then, should we move to something a little bit lighter?
It's not difficult.
But no, we've talked about 2 very heavy games.
Very heavy games,
Let's talk about something a bit light. We mentioned this pre-Expo, and this was a little bit of an Expo darling, because I noticed it was in like a little Perspex case as you went in.
Or was it? Oh, yes, it
Was
was.
it?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I did.
Yeah. So we've played Timbertown, and we've played it quite a bit, because it's a nice little 2-player game, and unlike Civolution and Sankoré, which can take 3 to 4 hours each to play, this takes like 15 to 30 minutes to play.
Yeah, if that.
If that, which means you can cram in a few games. Now, Timbertown is a 2-player only game in which you are beavers making a little town out of the timber which is floating down the river.
Yeah.
And this is like the really clever thing, TM, about this game is that you're drafting tiles into a 4x4 grid. And the tiles are all different buildings on the little rafts, but they're floating down the river, so you can only grab tiles from a section of the river and place them into that section of your board. You can do some other things, like there's various like bonuses like cranes, which allow you to pick up 2 tiles, rafts that allow you to reserve tiles, and then you've got a series of scoring objectives which change every game. So every type of building, of which I think there's 7, I want to say.
I think
off the
it's
top of my
7,
head.
yeah.
Every type of building has a different scoring rule. Like, for instance, it might be gardens score 5 points if they're in a corner. Universities score points if it's the only university in a column. Banks score points if they're next to one bank, but next to only one bank.
The usual kind of tile placing scoring mechanisms, really.
Yeah.
Not too dissimilar to Tiny Towns, in essence.
It is easy to make the Tiny Towns analogy because it runs on a similar system for scoring those objectives, and it's a bunch of cards which you draw randomly, which means every game has different scoring requirements and different ways in which the buildings go. But the actual gameplay is different to Tiny Towns in that it's 2-player only, and you're working across this central board which you're drawing tiles from, so there's an element of trying to get tiles before someone else does and looking at your opponent's boards and trying to grab it. But it doesn't quite have the full-on dick move you can get when you play with the picking the resources of Tiny Towns, which depends how you play Tiny Towns, because you can play that like a verb and right, to be fair. I quite like this. Amanda really liked this because it's pattern matching. So my wife is an amazing pattern matcher, so she scored double my points in the first game she ever played. Because she just saw for the Matrix and realised where everything went. But it's a nice little 2-player game, which is a quite nice relief from the heavy Euro games we've been talking about the rest of this episode.
Can I stop you there now?
Go on.
I take umbrage with the word nice. That's not fair to this game. It is.
Go on then.
Nice is a bit vanilla, a bit average, kind of
Okay.
a bit run of the mill. This is
Like Bells.
Yeah, like Bells.
But Bells isn't nice.
Bells
No,
ain't nice.
That's true. No, it's not.
But
Bells
it's
is
not.
toilet
But
cleaner.
Bells isn't offensive either. It's
Oh,
kind
it
of.
is.
It is, but it's offensive because it's bland. It's not offensive because of any particular flavour profile. This is what, to me, that's not fair to this game. I think it is a little bit better than nice. I think it is interesting and fun, and it's got a lovely little theme running through it, which I think is quite strong. That beaver theme, the building of it, building your little town, running beavers across the board, and all that nonsense. I liked it, and I think this is a good game.
I played this with my sister. We had like a barbecue a few weeks back, back when it was also hot. And we just me and my sister, who doesn't normally play board games, we just sat in the garden and taught the rules, and we played this. And it's a great gateway game. She got really into it. My sister, we got really, really competitive. But it was really easy to teach and really accessible too. And it looks brilliant. It looks nice. I am really impressed with that market. A lot of games have that market of cards or tiles, whatever. I think the way this moves is really simple, but very, very effective. And thematically works as well. That conveyor belt that you pick up you've got a little piece of cardboard, which your 3 smaller tiles are on, and you just pick it up and move it to the end, or you pick it up and move to the next section. And you've just got this flow of tiles. I've not seen that anywhere else before that I can think of, where the market moves. And it's really clever, because it becomes not just about what you take, it's when you take it, and it's keeping an eye on it and knowing that you're going to be able to take that in 2 turns and it's going to go into column 3, and that's really when you need to do it.
And it creates annoyance. It creates anger at yourself. There's nobody else to blame most of the time. It's you've picked up the wrong piece. You've put that piece in the wrong place. You didn't read the cards that you're scoring properly. It's rarely the other person's fault. They might pinch a tile off you, but really, I like this.
I do like this. Like I say, I think it's a good, light 2-player game. Great for introducing people to the hobby. Great for a bit of a palette cleanse, a bit of a change as well. It's quick, it's easy to teach, it's easy to play, very easy to understand, especially if you've played something like Tiny Towns. You just can get cracking with this and just enjoy it.
I have a minor complaint with this game.
The icons.
It's the same minor complaint that I had with Sankoré.
It's the icons.
The icons. I think the icons are awful. Now, once you know the game, it's not too bad. But basically, there are 2 graphical things that tell you what each tile is. There is actually artwork on it, which is colour coded. But there's also an icon in the bottom corner which tells you what the building is. So once you know what a bank looks like, all the bank tiles look the same. But at the same time, there's also an icon in the corner which has got 2 coins in it, which is yellow icons on a brown background, because the circle for the icon is also like a sawn bit of timber.
Yeah.
So it's a round piece of wood. So you've got yellow on a brown background, and then when you get to one of the buildings, it's orangey brown on a brown background.
And you've got a red.
And it's really tiny in the corner. And there's another one which is red on a brown background. Now, I'm not colourblind, but I was looking at these and I was going, I am getting short-sighted because I'm getting old. So I was constantly taking my glasses on and off, trying to work out which focal length I needed to get to look at these icons correctly. And then being the green background for the tile as well, I was like, it's a bit noisy, I think, the graphic design of this game, which I think is its only detriment.
Yeah. I think they've focused on cutesy rather than obvious colouring. Like, there's no reason for the canopies of buildings to be a mixture of white and the colour that tile's supposed to be. Make the whole canopy the same colour. And it would have stood out more as a yellow bank tile instead of a yellow and white stripy roof.
I think it might be the type of thing that when a artist graphic designer is doing this on a computer on their 32-inch monitor, it looks great. But when it's shrunk down to a 1x1 inch cardboard tile, it loses some of that clarity.
Do you know what? I think it's even easier than that. I think it's just there's too much green. The green just dominates the whole tile. There's so much of it, and there's not enough of the icon itself.
God, we sound like 4 really grumpy colourblind men here. Oh, orange or brown,
because our eyes are shot. Our eyes are shot.
You speak for yourself, boys.
It's got red and brown.
Yeah.
Too much green.
So yeah.
Not
I
enough.
can
hey,
focus,
look.
but I can't tell the difference.
If that's all,
You can quite clearly see mud.
2 things are the same colour. Yes, exactly.
but if that's all we can criticise it for, frankly, it's done a decent job.
Yeah, it's done a really decent job. I think it's
a very good job, to be fair. Yeah. No, nice little I say nice. I know Sid said not to use the word
Don't
nice,
say
but
nice.
yeah, it is nice. Nice sums it up. It's a cosy
No,
game.
nice sounds like Bruce Forsyth has come to your house and offered you a tea and biscuit, right?
Or a
That's
cuddly toy.
nice. Or a cuddly toy. Didn't they do well? No, but
But imagine if Bruce came to your house and offered you a game of Timber Towns.
no, Carol.
With a cup of tea and a biscuit.
This is more like Carol Smiley turning up your door and playing Wheel of Fortune with you. No, it's far more interesting and far more exciting than Bruce turning up at your door, isn't it?
It would make for a better story to tell the lads in the pub. You're absolutely
Go,
right.
boys. See?
Yeah.
And that's why I don't like the word nice.
Right, but I think Steve hit the nail on the head there. I think cozy. This is a really cozy game.
Cozy, I'll take cozy.
We'll take cozy all the way to the bank. So that's cozy. That's the cozy Timbertown from Alley Cat Games.
Cozy
Go check it
Timbertown.
out.
Right, so we end up with some questions, boys, because we haven't done questions in a while.
That's true.
We've
There's
got a
quite
bit
a
of
few of them. Oh my God, this list is quite...
So we've more or less started on this one. I'm going to chuck this one in because we did do something similar before. We made an analogy between heavy Euros and whiskey drinking, but Andrew Dobbs has basically wanted us to make an analogy between board games and beer, and says if board games were beer, which game is Thornbridge Jaipur and what game is Foster's?
I don't understand enough about beer to be able to answer.
Jaipur is an
Jaipur
excellent
is good.
beer.
Right.
Foster's is toilet water.
Well, I know Foster's is toilet water. Yeah, I know Foster's.
Jaipur is a beautifully made IPA, which I could drink forever. I absolutely love Jaipur. Beautiful beer.
It is. It's not as good as Jarl, but it's good.
So what's a beautiful game that I could just play forever, and what's a game that I would never play, even if it was offered to me for free at a wedding that I really didn't want to be at, but I really wanted to get drunk?
Brass for the good one, and Betrayal at House on the Hill for Foster's. Done.
Right, okay.
I mean, he's not done wrong. He's not done badly there. Although I'd tip up with an oink game. I'd put Scout in Foster's because you will play it and you'll drink Foster's.
No.
No.
I really want you to put Scout into an actual pint of Foster's. I
Well,
want you
that
to
would be worthwhile.
But you see what it's done. It's done exactly what a can of Foster's does. If
No,
I offered you a can of Foster's, you'd be ready to lap me with a thing, as you are right now.
Yeah.
And if I did the
No.
oink game, you'd do the same thing.
Sid, oink games are a Guinness.
What?
What?
To us who know our beers, Guinness is bland. It's cold and black and it's bland. But everyone else who thinks they know beers goes, oh, it's a lovely stout Guinness, isn't it? Oh, yeah, it's tasty, that.
You're right. It's the safe option
You're right.
when the bar doesn't
You're
have
right.
anything else worth drinking. That's what
All right.
everything is for.
Okay, no, you're right. I think I stand corrected. So,
Yeah, but
back to toilet water then. What the hell's toilet water?
Uno.
Uno. I don't mind Uno though.
Tam.
Uno transports well because you can take it with a boy to the pub.
Well, same way Foster's transports well because it tastes like piss when
No,
it's been
the
open for a
Foster's
week or
doesn't
not.
transport well. It's a fucking Australian beer brewed in Scotland. Right? It doesn't transport well at all. They can't. The dogpa won't even export the good stuff. They make us brew our own under license. It's mental. God, you've stirred up some stuff.
God, it's going to be
Andrew
up all night
Dobbs, you
now.
cause some mischief.
I can just imagine Sid just stomping around his house all night now. Foster's.
Foster's.
I know what to get him for his birthday, though.
The terrible thing is I used to drink that stuff by the pallet.
Yeah. We were young and didn't know any better, Sid.
Yes.
I mean, me and Andy both bought House on the Haunted Hill, Betrayal at House on the Haunted Hill. So, I mean, yeah, we basically, that's the equivalent of buying a pallet of Foster's.
It really is, yeah.
I think on that basis, motion passed.
Yeah. Right then, boys, we're picking up a question that isn't going to rile Sid up someone.
It's a very boozy episode, isn't it?
Well, whilst we've had a couple of heavy games, there's a couple of ones that have been asked. Rory's going to bag one of them. I shall bag the other. This is from Keith, No surname. Hi guys, I have a question for the mailbag. Well done, you're in it. As I'm working through the PHC back catalogue, he's up to episode 118. Well done.
poor
You've only
bloke.
just started.
Good work, sir.
You've only just started. You've
Hang on, he's not
scratched
gonna-
the surface.
He's not going to hear this for another 50 episodes.
Well, there you go. I keep hearing regular mentions of the unpronounceable T games. They sound like something I might enjoy, but also heavier than what I've played so far. Would you be able to help play? I would need to be able to play one with the missus. Would you recommend for being good at two-player and maybe slightly easy to understand? The heaviest game we played so far is probably Lost Ruins of Arnak, so we love that. Well, as I own all of the T games and have played all of the T games, I feel myself eminently qualified to answer this question.
But I bet I know what you're going to say as your answer.
Go on, then. What do you think I'm going to say?
I reckon you're going to say Zolkin.
You would be correct.
Yeah.
It's a bloody good suggestion.
It's a very good. Do you reckon that works the best at 2 players?
Of the rest, yes, I think so. Although an argument could be said for Teotihuacan. I won't say the other one because we'll get in trouble.
I was going to suggest Tekkenhu.
No, I don't think.
don't
I
think?
think that's too heavy. That's a lot.
I
Kenny,
was
is
gonna
that the
suggest-
pyramidy one?
No.
No, the Tekkenhu is the one with the obelisk.
Spins round. That's
Yeah,
also
yeah.
a David Turksy game. It's also a T game, you are correct, because there's 2 branches of T game. There's the Taskini games and there's the Turksy games. The Turksy games are considerably heavier, I think. But Tekkenu's a good game. It's okay at 2, but I think Solkin's lighter and better at 2, and I think it's probably closer to what Keith's asking for here. I wouldn't recommend going straight into Tekkenu if you've not played anything similar to it, because it is quite hefty.
The other one I was going to suggest was Tabanusi.
That's also quite heavy, I would say.
You
There's a lot
reckon?
going on there. I mean, it's a bloody good game, but
I didn't think it was that heavy, but
Oh, it is. Can be. Because once you get through your first plane, you realise you don't have to actually build on your own areas. You can build on other people's. It starts getting quite nasty. And there's quite a lot going on.
Okay.
Personally, I think there's a bit more to it than Tzolk'in.
And Sulkin's got involuted gears.
Exactly. I was getting onto that. And it looks really good if you paint it. It's probably quite cheap these days. I
it's
think.
CGE, so it's always at a good price point, and that
It
and
is,
it's a
exactly.
You can get loads of bling for it if you just type in, Zolkin
Which I
bling
have.
and Etsy. You can get loads
Yep.
of really cool stuff to make it look even better
Yep,
without
I've
painting.
put temples in the middle of all my wheels, painted them all up. It looks great. I've blinged it up. I think it's a brilliant game.
It's a
and
cracking
it's definitely what I would recommend if you've played. It's probably a slight step up from Lost Ruins, but not by much. Mechanically, it's dead simple. It's just you've got to think 3 turns ahead, which is what makes it hard. But it's very satisfying when you spin that cog and they all go round. That is just amazing.
Yeah, I think that's it, because it is just every turn you're either going to place a worker or take a worker off. And what I think Zolkin's really good at is helping you plan moves in advance, because you have to think in advance with Zolkin.
Yes.
Yep.
Timing is everything.
Yeah, it's not this. You place a worker, you get an instant reward. You only get the reward when you take them away. So you need to really think, and that's the great thing about the game. So on the subject of heavy games, Mark Kappelhelm asks that he says that, like us, he likes his heavier games, but he would like to know what is a game that he could potentially introduce that is a lighter game but packs the punch and still feels like a heavy one. I've completely paraphrased what you've said, Mark, but I did read the question a few times earlier, so I feel I got the gist. And my answer to this, I had to do a Google for a term I used when we did a review of a game ages ago, and I typed in Espresso Euro Polyhedron Collider into Google, and it returned, because that was I think it gives a feeling of a Euro but a much faster, lighter, and it returned White Castle.
Ooh,
Yeah.
good choice. Good choice.
I was going to go a Devere, and I was going to say Salt and Sea.
I would say that's, I mean, Salt and Sea was our game of the year last year.
I think it just
game.
fits. It just fits here because it does.
It's slightly heavier, though.
It is, but because it's simple, because it's intuitive to play, everything makes sense in that game.
yeah,
So you're not
true.
fighting the game, you're just playing the game.
I would
You're
also
right.
add Red Cathedral. That's a very, very straightforward, good game. But at the risk of mentioning Lacerda again, just to annoy Rory, I was going to add Bot Factory, the lighter ones.
Well, I was going to say House of Fardo
yeah.
for the very same reason, because it's the same thinking space as a heavy Euro, but
They're really accessible,
not
really straightforward.
really, yeah, and quite quick once it gets flowing as well. That game,
Yeah.
it moves. Quite
I
at
did
that
think
pace,
Mercado de Lisboa,
Yes.
which is another really good. It's a stripped down Lacerda. That's a good one. But still, I would definitely still say the White Castle, because it is an incredible game. You just take 9 actions. That's it. All you're doing is picking a dice.
It's a good shout. Pick a die and then cry because it's the wrong one.
You go pick a die, pick a die, and then put it down somewhere. That's all you got to do. That's the whole game in a nutshell.
And 8 of those 9 choices will probably be wrong.
Richard, who's not a wizard, asks us, right, we're building a Frankenstein monster of board games from the Pokey Bumwank Coriander crew. So which qualities of each member would you take to make the ultimate board game player?
I can't think of this. It's too positive. I can only think what we could rate the worst player.
Oh, we could do both.
Well, yeah. Well, we have John's analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
My grumpiness when I don't understand the rules.
And my stroppiness when I start losing.
Yeah. Andy's colour blindness, so we can't understand what's going on the board. Maybe my short-sightedness, so I've got to stand up and look around the board as well. Go on, what's your worst playing quality, Sid?
Not actually turning up.
Not only are we shit, we just won't bother.
I was about to say Sid's is even. It doesn't turn
That's
up.
outstanding.
Or it's his turn. You realise he's gone in the kitchen to make a cup of tea.
Cup of tea or get some snacks. I'm not there when it's my turn, basically.
Yeah.
So
I would also throw in the fact that I'm a really bad winner.
that's
Not going to disagree with that, mate.
No, I'm not. I freely admit I'm a perfectly magnanimous loser, but I'm a terrible winner. I am.
So what the positive? If we made the positive Polyhedron Collider Frankenstein's monster, what are the positive qualities from each of us? I always like Steve's, stuff it, let's just do that attitude. Who'll spend 5 minutes thinking about it and just go, no, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it.
He always says, I'm poking the game.
Poking the game.
It's like some excuse. Just in case this goes wrong, boys. Just poking the game.
Get the excuse in now before it all goes base over apex. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way to do it.
It's actually quite hard to be positive.
It's quite hard. It's for us, isn't it? About each other.
I think we need to put in Rory's positivity and general accepting of any old tosh, because he is.
Except
I mean that in a good way. And so he's very open-minded as a player. He is.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
I am if I was a dog, I'd be a Springer Spaniel. I'm just excited about absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could put any old crap in front of him, you'd play it. It'd be fun.
No, there's been some dross I've forced myself through recently.
We've broken him as well.
Yeah.
Taken his joy and squashed it out of him like a ropey bit of toothpaste.
Good. About bloody time.
I would say Sid's ability to actually judge a way in which a game is good or bad in a way that the rest of us can't even possibly comprehend. And it's something you do on the podcast more. You just suddenly say like, "Oh no, you're wrong because of this," and then we all go, "Oh yeah, you're right, Sid."
Yeah, he does have a different way of looking at things.
That's because I'm not there half the time. That's why. So I don't play half the flipping game.
He's looking at things through the bloody window, probably.
Got time to think about it while he's waiting for the tea to brew. That's what it is.
That's it.
On the plus side, it means you get a cup of tea.
And Andy has brought the fact that he's backed this up the Balls Deep level, so we're playing the Ultimate Bling edition.
That is true. You are guaranteed to get pretty.
So what we're saying, our Frankenstein would have gold balls.
Yep. Yeah. Golden balls, but no money.
Right there, well, with that uncharacteristic positivity, boys, I think we have to call it a day. So thank you very much for listening. We have been Polyhedron Collider. If you enjoyed us, please give us a review on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice, and share us with your friends. I mean, they'll appreciate it. I'm sure they will. But interactions on the social medias, because that's always good, because it helps feed the algorithm. And talking about social media, we are on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, BGG Guild 2726, and of course we have our own Discord server now, which is full of interesting chats and Phil trying to freak us out. Which is, yeah,
It's gone beyond trying, mate. He's like a Jedi, do or do not, and he did.
Don't forget as well, we are sponsored by Kenda. We mentioned Sankoré, which we got through Kenda. Very thanks to them. If you fancy any of the games we've talked about today, go check them out. There is a code in the show notes, or go to kienda.co.uk/Polyhedron Collider and you get a discount off your first purchase. But until next episode, happy gaming.
Ta-ra.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
Each era begins with phase 1 and ends with phase 8. The phase indicator, which moves along the phase sequence of the phase sequence board, indicates the current phase. It starts at the hexagon space of the first phase, new cards. Once you've completed phase 1 and moved to phase 2, then move to phase 3 and so on. Phase 1, new cards.